let's get things started with yesterday's game. 11-3 series opener. Two teams that are in different stages of their organizational plan. The A's rebuilding, but have really turned a corner with some of their young, exciting prospects. 11 runs, 8 of them coming in the 6th, 7th, and 8th.
They're a late scoring team, Stefan. I mean, in the 8th and 9th, 2 days ago when the A's played the Rangers, they scored six runs. I mean, they had a 5-run 8th, then a 1-run 9th, and they've just kind of continued that trend. But this is what everybody's talking about with this A's team is the offense, the young offense, the ability to just wake up and hit. And so they went to St. Louis. They got a lot of pitches in the zone. They were able to exploit Sonny Gray fairly early. And from that point on, the A's claimed victory.
Yeah, that's one of the big hallmarks and highlights of this season. The A's have been offensively potent despite having the 4th youngest roster in Major League Baseball. That's got to be really exciting for years to come. Now, the Cardinals side of things, interesting to see how things turned out in Cincinnati. You take 2 out of 3 against a team that has been surging. You come in, you face an A's team that maybe the record doesn't look so pretty, but I don't know if you fully knew what was coming with a team like that when you come into town and see.
Well, you had an idea. I mean, they're a good fastball hitting team. Sonny Gray has a good fastball. His sweeper was sweeping sometimes well, sometimes not. As Chris said, they found a lot of the balls in the strike zone and they whacked them. I mean, he's right. The A's score a ton of runs. They've got a terrific young offensive team. They hit the ball out of the ballpark. I mean, almost half their runs come via the home run. And those back-to-back homers that Sonny gave up really seemed to take the starch out of him. And then once he ran out of gas at the 80, 85 pitch mark, you had some unproven young guys that are trying to make their way in the bullpen, which for an offensive team like the A's, they're going to feast on those kind of players. So once it started spiraling downhill for Sonny and the Cardinals, that was pretty much game over. And the A's, that's a very impressive young offensive bunch. That's the DNA of their franchise. They've been changing players over and flipping rosters ever since Connie Mack ran the club, and they're doing it again. And I think they have a really, really promising future.
Well, you're showing your age there with the Connie Mack reference, Dad.
That's what I do.
So the A's, again, we talked about it briefly. They've struggled on the mound. They've struggled pitching, particularly in the starting variety. They've had injuries. They've kind of shuffled the deck with their starting pitching. Yesterday, Luis Morales stabilized things even further. A sub 1.6 ERA in 6 appearances in the major leagues. What have you seen from him?
I mean, this is the first time in his major league career where he's allowed more than 1 run in an outing. So he had a 2-run performance at 5 2/3, nearly had a quality start, which would have been his 3rd straight quality start. And the big question mark around Luis Morales was he going to be able to establish the fastball and stay in the zone? Because he has wicked stuff, fastball, slider, changeup, commands them very well, at least at the big league level. But when he got promoted from Double-A earlier this year, they actually transitioned him into a long reliever. And he found a lot of success in Triple-A as a long reliever and got called up in that position. And an injury to Luis Severino in Washington after a great start. Luis Morales was called upon. And next thing you know, he's making a start in Baltimore. It was a little shaky. He walked, I think, 5 people. But since then, he's been limiting the walks. He's been pounding the zone, and he's been trusting his stuff. I mean, this guy's 22 years old out of Cuba that the A's signed in 2023 for $3 million. So that's a lot of money to give somebody. And so far, he has definitely restored a bit of faith and has caused even more excitement about what is going to be a very young and exciting rotation at the bottom 3 slots with, of course, Severino and Springs at the top 2, the ace and the number 2 guy.
Yeah, not to mention a couple of starts ago, he went 7 innings. And being a long reliever to go to the majors and pitch 7 innings with 1 or less earned runs, that's pretty good. And you, Dad, as an unbiased party, what did you think of him on the mound?
That was legit stuff. That's top of the rotation stuff, I thought. To Chris's point, yeah, he threw his fastball. He threw it 96, 97 miles an hour. He threw it for strikes. In this era of Major League Baseball, fastball usage the last 4 or 5 years has been lower than it's ever been in the history of the game. And it's astounding to me when guys go out to the mound and they think, well, 96 isn't good enough. I've got to trick them with sliders and everything else. It was a perfect storm for the Cardinals, who have struggled hitting the fastball all year. Most of their good contact damage guys are injured, and Alec Burleson and Brendan Donovan and Nolan Arenado. Those guys don't strike out a lot. And you had a guy that throws 96 and could put it on a dime when he wanted to. So all of those three things combined for the Cardinals have struck out double digits for the 2nd straight game. That's taking nothing away from Morales. He was really, really impressive. And that's the kind of guy the Cardinals could use a couple of as soon as we can find them.
Well, it is interesting, Dad, too, going back to his last start on the homestand where he went 7 shutout innings. He recorded 21 outs. All of the outs were recorded on either a 4-seam fastball or a changeup. So when you start talking about guys mixing pitches and having a deep arsenal, sometimes all you need is 2 pitches. And if you have 2 very plus confident pitches, you could take care of business. That was against the Detroit Tigers, the top team in the American League, and he was able to take care of them on surely just 2 pitches. So to be able to have that has been a tremendous advantage. And for him to learn under Luis Severino, who's going to take the ball tonight for the green and gold, I think is only going to make Luis Morales better and better as the years progress.
And that's not exactly a pitcher-friendly ballpark at Sutter Health Park in Sacramento. So to see him being able to do that against that club in Detroit, and again against the Cardinals, who are not offensively well, they aren't a team that struggles to score runs. It was surprising to see him go out there and be as confident as he is, because when the Cardinals have struggled this year, as you know, it's been against the southpaws on the mound.
Yeah, lefties are giving him trouble. That wasn't the case yesterday. That kid's got plus stuff. He's got A1 stuff. He got the biggest signing bonus ever given to a player in the bonus pool cap era, $3 million, as Chris said. But that's what the A's have had to do. They have to win on the margins. They took a risk. They were rewarded with this 22-year-old young man, and knock on wood, he can stay healthy. But that's the kind of guy and the kind of find that every organization dreams of having, because $3 million in a $12 billion industry is not a ton of money. And this is a guy that has a chance to win 15 games every single year if he can stay healthy. And last night, or yesterday, I should say, on Labor Day, he did not labor a bit against the Cardinals.
The A's look like a team that are going to be very, very good come second half of next year. I'm very excited to see what happens for you and for them. And I want to remind everybody that this show is powered by Graybar, your distributor for electrical and datacom needs. Remember to like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Get involved in the conversation. We want to answer your questions about the Cardinals, about the A's, about tonight, about any crazy stories we might have. I'm sure we'll get into that a little bit later in the show. But one of the things that both teams are dealing with right now, young, progressive players coming through the pipeline. And the A's have sort of been at the front of that list with Nick Kurtz and Jacob Wilson. Let's start by talking about those two guys and what they've meant to your organization.
Oh, they've been tremendous. And I mean, you drafted them the first round, years to years, back to back. You know, at one point, at the beginning of the season, Max Muncy and Jacob Wilson, who played high school ball together as second base and shortstops, are now playing at the big league level together. So it's not just limited to Wilson and Kurtz, but Jacob Wilson, you know, he's chasing Aaron Judge for the AL batting title. He is going to have a chance to get the batting title. And Jacob Wilson was the talk of the town, the point of conversation for about 3/5 of the year, and then had a little bit of an injury at around the All-Star break, and the emergence of Nick Kurtz right after the All-Star break with that 4-homer game, hitting well above 300, hitting for power, hitting for extra bases, and now everybody thinks Kurtz is going to be the American League Rookie of the Year. So for it to be two athletics to be the 1-2 punch in the conversation is great for the organization. I think it's also, just great for the game of baseball for these young guys getting immediate shots to come up here and prove it. Because as we know, if you're good, why waste their time in the minor leagues when they can impact the big league club right now? And that's exactly what Wilson and Kurtz have done.
And the Cardinals are dealing with a bit of that right now. Their draft pick, J.J. Weatherholt, doing tremendous things with AAA Memphis. But I think each organization has different needs. And right now, where are you going to play J.J. Weatherholt?
That's exactly right. There's so much duplication at a couple of different spots, infield and outfield for the Cardinals. You've got a lot of guys that do the same things, play the same spots, both in the infield and outfield. So bringing up J.J. Weatherholt doesn't answer the most important question that the Cardinals have going into this offseason, and that is, what do they have, and what is going to be the core of this franchise going forward for what they hope will be the next division champion, pennant winning, and maybe World Series club? I don't know that they fully know the answer to either one of those questions at this point. We've still got about a month of baseball left to be played. But to your point about Weatherholt, look, he's torn it up at AAA. You have to put an asterisk by that to a certain degree. All the really good pitchers that are ready for this level are here. So you have to wonder, is there some latency bias, I guess, with Weatherholt and what he's doing at the plate? But make no doubt about it, the Cardinals and their fans are excited about this kid. He'll get a long look in spring training. And once Chaim Bloom does what he's going to do in the offseason and winnows out what we have to get what we don't, I would assume that Weatherholt will be very much in that conversation.
That's a great point, Dad. You make it about the Cardinals. The A's, it felt like watching them yesterday, their 2026 roster isn't set in stone necessarily, but you have a pretty good idea of who's going to be playing where next year. The Cardinals, it seems like the opposite. You don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, you figure Contreras will be here. He has a no-trade clause. Sonny Gray, no trade clause. Nolan Arenado, no trade clause. So those are three guys that you have to determine what their future is. Not to mention, is Nolan Gorman an everyday third baseman? Well, if he is, where's he going to play? How's he going to play? If he DHs, well, then what does that do to Alec Burleson? If Alec Burleson is in the lineup, well, you want to play Herrera and you want to play Nootbaar in your outfield. What's Jordan Walker? Walker's approaching 95 games. He still hasn't taken off this year. He's the number 1 draft pick that we all know the Cardinals are waiting to see what he can do. So to your point, we're much more in the evaluation stage and then accumulating players stage. Sounds to me like the A's have already found the answers to a lot of those questions, and they showed it off yesterday.
I've likened it to an audit for the Cardinals. They're just trying to figure out what they have and what they can be for the future. The A's future looking extremely bright. Now, one thing they're trying to address is starting pitching and pitching as a whole. Have you followed or kept up with their minor league system? Are there any players that intrigue you coming up through the pipeline?
Yeah, there's a few. One name that really jumps out is Gage Jump. He's a starting pitcher. I believe he's in Double-A right now. He's pushing Triple-A very, very quickly. But Brent Rooker has said to our farm director, he said, can we get Gage Jump up here now? You just need more pitching. And the young core of pitchers that the A's have rolled out this year in the starting variety, you think about JT Ginn, Joey Estes, Luis Medina is going to be healthy at some point next year. Ken Waldichuk is now at AAA, throwing down there. So there's a bunch of guys that the A's can choose from. Luis Morales is, I think, clearly cementing himself as one of the rotation pieces for the Green and Gold in 2026 that you have to choose from. The question is, who is going to make the biggest impression? So, though in the position variety, I think everything is pretty much locked down. If the A's decide to sign a few free agents like they did this year with Urshela and Urias, going into next year, that's a possibility, just to add a little bit, maybe more power or maybe some defensive acumen as well to help the young guys up. But I don't think that there are very many positions to crack on the offensive side of the game. But there could be a chance to bring in some free agent relievers, getting rid of Mason Miller and JP Sears, though it seemed like a very interesting trade. You got Leo DeVries, you got a whole slew of pitchers as well. It made sense for both clubs at that point in time. So pitching is going to be, I think, what David Forst and his staff will address in the offseason and make sure that the A's have a lot, more solid of a back end of their rotation and in their bullpen, because Severino and Springs is a great 1-2 punch, but everybody knows you need more than just 2 pitchers to win baseball games.
Chris, it feels a lot like when we were covering the D-backs minor leaguers a few years ago and Arizona was on the cusp of being a powerhouse team in the NL West. This feels like what's happening with the A's. They're going to be able to get free agents because I think people who watched yesterday's game will see a lot more of that from the A's the rest of 2025 and say, hey, maybe they've got something here and I want to be a part of that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that it's wrong to think that. I just think the A's have to get out of their own way in the first half. The A's are a team that, the last 2 first halves have not performed as well as they had hoped. We had a bad month of May going into June where the team lost 20 of 21 that I think they've completely erased out of their minds, but you can't forget it in the scope of a season. So everybody's saying they will be good by the second half. Well, they were 32-32 last year's second half. They got a chance to be 500 or better this second half, but we're not going to the playoffs. So you have to have a solid first half. And I know teams say, oh, they'll settle in, but this is 2 straight years of settling in with nothing to show for it other than development, which has been, the name of the game for David Forst and Mark Kotze. But I think the expectation will continue to be much, much higher in 2026, because this is a team right now that is not only playing their best brand of baseball, but a team that looks like they won't just compete for a wild card spot, but they could compete for an open division next year.